critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again.
Good evening, it's Friday night and welcome to the Three Amigos with me, Steve Hasty and Mitch. Good evening, chaps.
Evening, lads.
Good to see you, good to see you. And as always, plenty to talk about with Newcastle United. The last 7 days has been another eventful one. And as always, we try to cover a bit of on the pitch and off the pitch action. And I wanted to start with this tweet that I saw by Dan Rowan, Steve. I'm not sure whether you actually watched the clip and watched the interview, but Richard Masters again still hanging around like a bad smell, and you know, this takeover is done and dusted now. It's been passed through, and you know they're still you know making news out of this. I really just do not understand the obsession.
No, nor do I. And Dan Rowan and the BBC and many other people seem to be wanting to keep the pot boiling, don't they? That's basically what's happening. The more that, you know, as soon as they get an opportunity to interview Richard Masters or anyone else to do with the Premier League, they ask them the questions about Newcastle United. And, you know, I don't know how many times on here, either Mitch or yourself or myself or guests that you've had on various other shows have all said, guys, just move on. Just let you know it's happened. But no, they want to keep the pot boiling, or certain members of the press do. And let's face it, Masters doesn't help himself either, does he? When he does actually respond to them, to questions, because he doesn't come over as the most positive of people. I mean, if ever there's a man who could turn you to sleep, it would be him. If you were in a conversation with him, quite frankly. But no, it's just another example, Steve, of people in the media wanting to keep having a go at Newcastle United. And when you look at where we are in the league, I listened to a radio show today on the afternoon, a national radio show, where one of the presenters, who's a Chelsea fan, actually said, I really hope Newcastle go down. I'm desperate for them to go down. And then his guest said exactly the same. Yes.
Really?
Wouldn't it be great to see them go down and then see them languishing in the Championship and see how that money gets them out of that? And I was like, what on earth?
What channel was that on?
That was Talk Sport.
Oh, well, there we go. I mean, Mitch, this is absolutely ludicrous. It is. And I mean, it's just going on and on and on and on and on. What are they expecting to get out of this?
Do you know, but we called it. We said it would get worse when the takeover happened, and it wouldn't stop. It would just be different. And this sort of, the attitude seems to be just exactly what Steve's put across there, is that they're desperate for it to get relegated. They're desperate to see we're sunk in one way, shape, form or another, without crediting where, if a relegation happens, that's Mike Ashley's last two-fingered salute to it all. It's got nothing to do with the incoming owners. And again, we can't be held as the moral arbiters of sport, yet we still seem to be given that role. And it's predictable where it's coming from in the media now. You know who's going to say what and what angle they're going to take. The BBC at the minute seem to have a very anti-Gulf rhetoric going on within their organisation, full stop. Multiple attacks on Dubai and the UAE from the news department, and it, for example, is just one case that I see regularly that also gets me wound up. I don't know what they're hoping to get out of it. I don't know what that. I mean, Talk Sport, yeah, they live off bites,
yes.
And sadly, as a fan base, we do bite. And so they get their clicks and they get their, you know, they get their figures in one way, shape, form or another. It's very hard to ignore it, though. You know, it's hard for the ordinary fan to just sit back and take it on the chin. You know, and you do sort of wonder, is there an end game anywhere? Is there a point where it does stop? Does it stop if we're relegated? I would suggest it won't. It'll keep going. There's a ha-ha, look at yous. You know, this is like you say, a Chelsea fan, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
There you are in the second division with your money. What's that going to do you? I beg your pardon.
Exactly.
I remember when yous were nothing, absolutely nothing before Abramovich came along.
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
It was Andy Jacobs from the Hawksby and Jacobs show that said it. It wasn't Jason Cundy, because let's face it, nobody listens to Jason Cundy anyway, because he's not on until about 10 o'clock at night. And even if he was on it even earlier, I wouldn't listen to him anyway, because he talks absolute rubbish. But I have a bit of respect for and I quite enjoy the Hawksby and Jacobs show. It was quite good. But it was interesting as well that the co-presenter actually said, "Oh, there's a bit of bitterness in you there, isn't there? There's a bit of fear. I can hear the fear in your voice." So I think it was possibly a bit of a dialogue and a two-way dialogue that had been going on off air between them over a couple of days, over a couple of weeks. But when he got the opportunity, he pounced with it, and it was just how we laughed, man. That this is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But you know what? I don't think he's the only one. I think we'll find that this will carry on. I mean, the comments that were on the breakfast show on that same channel that came from Gabby Bonghall about Tyneside and about whether you'd want to live and earn 40,000 a week on Tyneside or 30,000 a week if you were playing for Brentford, stuff like that. It's again. With him, I don't think it is clickbait. I think it's just ignorance, and I think he's just a not very, very clever person, to be quite honest. But it resonates with other people in the media. It creates a story. It creates a conversation. And, we do bite. And quite rightly, we bite when we hear like that.
It's super hard not to when you hear the region trashed like that as well, and the amount of people I've spoken to out here who've been into the northeast for one reason or another, aren't from the northeast, but their life or their job has taken them there at some stage, all come back raving about Newcastle in the northeast, and about how it's got everything. We can't believe how beautiful it is, and and you hear this lazy trite, but back to the bloody early 90s, where the hypocritical tale about Keegan having to prove to Rob Lee that Newcastle was closer to London than Middlesbrough. It's worse than lazy, and it's absolutely pig ignorant. So for him, for Bonlow, he can take it and shove it up his ignorant backside. But to hear people who have got a little bit more respect within the game, like Hawksby, Jacobs, etc., coming out with trash like that is really disappointing. And again, you do wonder what's your agenda then? Is it jealousy based? You're just thinking, no, God, not be long and they'll be overtaking us. But that's not true. Not even we think that. Not even we think that. But they're all quaking in their boots, and it shows top to bottom in the game. The big six, as it were, has obviously got their fans thinking a certain way too. That they've got this entitlement to be at the top forever, and who was Super League for the benefit thereof. And that's still, if you want to go back to Masters, becomes another elephant in the room, because the handling of the breakaway clubs that intended to leave, and the way that we basically let off with a gentle tap on the wrist in relative terms to other clubs for what they have done, and that nobody's talking about that still, in the bloody should be.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, well, that's a good little start of the programme. Lots of comments coming in, lots of questions. We'll try and get to a few of them now. Evening, lads, says Mr. Midnight. Unusual question, but I listen to Big River a lot more since the Spurs game. But as a young'un, a lot of it is before my time. Wondered what memories you old gadgies have of it and old Newcastle. If you're talking music, Mr. Midnight, my favourite song, and I was educating Holly about this at the start of the season, was the Clap Clap song, which they used to play around about 1:30 when I used to get onto the Gallagher end, obviously, which was all steps and barriers back in those days and didn't have a roof. In fact, when you used to go in the old back of the Gallagher, they used to have trees and the toilet was open fair. You might have seen some photographs on Twitter. We had a Clap Clap song. It went something like this. So what I'll do is I will find that on YouTube while Steve reminisces, and I'll stick it on the link so you can all have a listen to that. But that was my favourite song. They should bring it back. Steve, what memories have you got as an old gadgie?
As an old gadget, steam trains at the central station. I mean, I wasn't there for trolley buses. Don't I? You know, I was not that. I'm not that old. Musically, I mean, you want to go back to the mid '70s and Lindisfarne concerts. I mean, perfect timing because we had that fantastic program last Friday on BBC Four that was done by Sam Fender. Well, it was done. He was presenting it about the story of Alan Hull, who was the lead singer and one of the founder members of Lindisfarne. And those Lindisfarne Christmas concerts were absolutely fabulous. I was watching that program actually last week, and I was looking for myself on it simply because on at least 2 occasions I managed to get seats on the stage. And in those days for Lindisfarne, if you got a seat at the back and you were facing the audience and you felt as though you were part of the band at times because the band are right in front of you and you're just sitting behind them on the stage. They were great. They were great times. I mean, I think at some point, I think Lindisfarne used to do 10 or 12 nights consecutively before Christmas, and carried on. And I think I went to a gig that they did. It was some anniversary gig of the first time that they'd done a concert, and it was just in the tail end of the 2000. Well, let's see, must have been around about 2016, 2017. An absolutely great concert, slightly different lineup to Lindisfarne. But I think if you're going to talk about music, Lindisfarne are always going to be there up at the top. And obviously everybody knows the Fog on the Tyne song that even if they're not old young enough to remember the Lindisfarne version, then they'll know the Lindisfarne stroke Gaza version that came out that Paul did, which I think some people in the country, talk about ignorance, actually thought that was the original version of Fog on the Tyne and that there hadn't been one in the 1970s. But no, Lindisfarne for me. And as for the city, well, the city's just been transformed. I can remember it before Eldon Square was built. I remember Northumberland Street with cars going up and down it. That type of thing. We used to drive straight off the Tyne Bridge, straight up Pilgrim Street and straight up Northumberland Street to the Haymarket and then up to Gosforth. That was before the Central Motorway came in. So, I mean, the transformation of the city's been tremendous, and let's hope that the transformation continues with the investment that we're hoping is going to come over the next 5, 6, 7 years as the Reuben Brothers development at the bottom of Pilgrim Street and then beyond, coming up to where the old Odeon was. And I think looks like the DSS, or what was the DSS, that HMRC are going to take those buildings over. But it's going to be another massive change in the city centre. But there was some great places back in the day, Steve. Some great places.
Mr. Midnight's correctness, he says, well, I was mostly meaning about the stuff in the song. He says Neptune Yard and Old Newcastle in general. But yeah, I mean, Old Newcastle in general, I think Steve's covered that, really. I mean, for me, I think the thing that sticks out for me is the old quayside. I mean, the renovation of the quayside over recent years has been something phenomenal to watch. And I remember going along the old quayside market on a Sunday morning, and it was literally... You could look through the wooden stairs and you could see the water underneath you. There was nothing there. And right. The old market used to have a big warehouse and used to be able to go inside and walk around. There was a market within this big warehouse. I remember that. But those are probably the things I remember. And, the rest of it is like the old Odeon again as well. Things which have gone. Yeah. And pubs. The Mayfair, yeah. Of course, the Dolce Vita, which became Planet Earth, where I worked on the door. There's loads of places on there. The Farmer's Rest, I mentioned that many times on the show. So lots of old Newcastle gone. But yeah, the song Big River is certainly, probably, got a lot of people thinking. Mitch, what about you? I mean, obviously memories of home for you are probably something you treasure with you being out there.
Absolutely. All this was fields when I was a lad. Never seen a real egg until I was 12. First time I saw a banana, I ate it with the skin on, and all of that. The thing I say regularly out here talking about Newcastle is I'm very proud that as I grew up, Newcastle grew up. And hand in hand, that happened. Those changes that you're talking about, like where the quayside became something that was so much more than it used to be. The places you used to go when I was sort of a teenager, if you wanted to get up to no good, now there's gastro pubs, Michelin-starred restaurants, and £1 million apartments. You know, it's been a genuine transformation. It's become a metropolitan city, a place which is more aware of its place in the world, and yet at the same time far more accepted and far more understanding and far more unified in terms of, you know, race, color, creed, gender, whatever. You're welcome and you're part of us. Come and be. It's the you know, the stuff that Bill does with the food bank and the dignity flag and all of that stands for. That all transformed as I grew up. The city's in some ways very much recognisable, but in other ways not so recognisable. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of us as the Geordie nation, as it were, to see that change happen so well and retain the welcoming and friendly atmosphere and persona that we've always had, you know. And you know, certainly for me as a teenager, places like the Riverside and the Mayfair, because I mean, basically, I was more rock metal oriented as a teenager, so places like the Egypt Cottage, you know, certainly stand out in my mind as places where you'd go, and you know, just the whole way the city is now a proper grown-up city, and a real, really something to be proud of when you stand and say I'm from Newcastle, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah,
and as an sorry guys,
you're dead right, and I think you mentioned the old gadgets right at the beginning, Stephen. You suddenly don't suddenly realise you're getting old when now we're probably into the third phase of the redevelopment of Newcastle. You know, you had the T. Dan Smith version of the 60s post-war, and then you had the development of Eldon Square and the Quayside, and the Eldon Square in the late 70s, early 80s, the Quayside, which was for the tall ships race. And that's when the development started in the mid 90s, and the huge law courts that went up. But now we're moving into phase 3. You know, it's taken all that time. But I suppose, yeah, I am an old gadget when it comes to that. I was laughing at some of the comments there. Somebody was saying, you know,
some great ones, isn't it?
Yeah, the peanut sellers at the match. Obviously, we all remember them. The Chronicle guys on every street corner. You know, yeah, you know, Chronicle, you know, every street corner. There was a guy who had the pitch outside Phoenix that was a permanent fixture. You know, some people would go to their favourite newspaper seller as they came out of a shop or whatever, you know, and it's little things like that that suddenly you suddenly realise they're not there anymore. And again, that's part of the development of and the changes that have happened technologically over the last sort of 10 years and we're seeing the impact of it now when there are no longer any newspapers. You know, eventually there'll be no news agents because magazines will go the same way, you know.
Getting a few in the chat going, Ronnie Gayle.
Ronnie Gayle.
Yeah.
I mean, I must admit, even though it's only been what, 3.5 years since I've been back.
Yeah.
And hopefully if things stay as they are, I'll be back over Christmas for a week. And I'm very curious to see what's changed, because that's the pace of change back home at the minute.
Yeah,
the first
yellow
buses
buses
will be from £2.50 a pint to £4. That's the first change you'll see.
Yeah, yellow buses are another thing. Lots of people going on about waiting for the pink. Of course, we all used to queue for the pink down at. I used to go to Monument, and I used to get there around about 6 o'clock. Alan McKenzie says pre-match we used to pile into the Geordie Pride and then go to Huff's for the strippers. Which is again something which nowadays you very rarely see anybody going to that kind of thing these days before the match. Yeah, lots of great memories. The Mayfair getting a few mentions as well. Bill Burnett says the Mayfair was my favourite place. Led Zeppelin, etc. And lots of people talking about the peanut sellers. Paul Heppelwaite says the smell of the hops at the Arch from the brewery, which again, I mean, the brewery's a huge miss. I mean, something like that is, you know, it's just one of those things. As the smell used to, you know, drift over the crowd as they walked up to St James's Park. Little White Bull Tommy Gary still that's another one who really stuck stuck in my mind. Lots of people, God bless him, he's passed away now. Plenty of characters. That's what it's all about. The Geordie dancer, probably a little bit more recent, but he's another one. But Mr. Midnight, it's amazing what a song can do and kickstart a potential topic. So thanks for that, mate.
Could be a short this, Steve.
Yeah, Mike Gent. Evening, lads. Hope you're well. I'm coming up tomorrow with the two lads. Hope to see you at the Dog and Parrot. I'll be there, mate. 1 o'clock. Get yourself in to see me and Supermac. It'll be great to see you, mate. Make sure you introduce yourself. Oliver says they should play The Big River when the players come out. Get rid of the Beatles song. No links with Newcastle at all. It frustrates the hell out of me. Also says 3 points tomorrow or we are down. And Paul says it's his first game back at St James's Park tomorrow after 4 years. He's going to convert a Bristol City supporting girlfriend to a footballing misery. Even a Robins fan can't match with the lads. Okay, back to football. Doug's asking a question which I've seen a few people mention on social media, and I've been asked in the gym this week about this one. Could you ask the lads if we think we are waiting for Rafa as our director of football? Doug believes he would be a good fit, Steve. Now, Rafa Benitez, we just seem to have forgotten about him, but he's having a torrid time down at Everton. Why he took that job, I will never understand why he took that job, especially with the chance of the takeover still going through and with him being in the box seat to take the Newcastle manager's job. Is this something he's going to fancy? Because he likes to be hands-on, he likes to be pitch-side, he likes to be tucking his specs into the top of his jacket after 3 points in a tactical masterclass. Is he going to come in as a director of football?
I don't see him as a director of football, Steve. I think he's very much steeped in the day-to-day tactics and the game itself. He's not an administrator. I think that would frustrate the hell out of him, to be perfectly honest. I honestly don't think that they're waiting for that. I don't know what they are waiting for, by the way. I can't put my finger on it. The longer it goes on, the more people start to raise questions about what it could be that's holding it up. I mean, we saw it with the manager's job, where they waited and they bided their time, and they went through a business-like phase of interviews and such like, and then selected the person that they decided that collectively, I presume, they all wanted. And whether that's the same sort of thing that's happening with the director of football, I'm not too sure. It's an odd one. We're now hearing comments about having a CEO before we get a director of football, and I don't quite understand that. Again, I think that could be paper talk, or it could be someone basically looking for column inches. I'm not too sure. I've heard nothing. It's all very strange at Newcastle United at the moment. We're still desperate for points on the pitch. With this, people questioning what's going on in the background, and they started off. There was lots of good communication coming out, lots of positivity. But I'm wondering how long that positivity will stick with the fans, and more importantly, the people who rock the boat, as we've seen already, are the press. Or certain sections of the press, and usually the press down south. And if people are going to start rounding on Newcastle for their performances soon, as invariably they will, especially if we don't start picking up more than 1 point in the game, it's inevitable that this is the sort of fodder that they're gonna feed off. Quite frankly. The national press and no doubt the BBC as well, with certain corners. No, I honestly don't see Rafa as an administrator, as a director of football. I just haven't seen him on the pitch, haven't watched him from in the dugout, and haven't actually spent time watching coaching sessions that he's done. The man just loves football. Bobby Robson didn't enjoy his spell at Barcelona. He couldn't wait to get back into the dugout at Newcastle United. And I think Rafa Benitez would be exactly the same. And I think if Rafa took a director of football role, as I say, I don't think it would last long. And I think that it would quite possibly create issues for the current management structure as well. So I honestly don't see it happening.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, people saying Rafa should stay in the past. Essentially, some people saying they like him, so they'd love him to come back. But yeah, he's a football man, isn't he? As Donald Bain says, Rafa's a football man, simple, and couldn't see him going for an upstairs role.
And I can't see Eddie Howe being prepared to work with Rafa above. I think that's the other element here. They seem all of a sudden to have gone all in with Eddie Howe. My thoughts this week, and I haven't really shared them with you, is that the pumping of the brakes on the director of football side of things, and this flip-flop from director of football to no, we're looking for a CEO first, not a director of football first, makes me wonder. And again, we've had mentioned that Hickson and the scouting team are set to make the recommendations for January. Makes me wonder if they decided, look, for this season, let's chuck all in at staying up and Eddie Howe's plan, and then we'll get the CEO appointment done, and then we'll look at how the structure is going to work after that. It just feels like they've pumped the brakes on something.
Yeah.
And so, rightly or wrongly, that seems to be the way they're going. It still isn't as a great look, particularly with January around the corner, unless as part of Howe's sort of plan that he presented to them, he's named a list of targets and everybody's gone, right, okay, let's work with this. If not, this flip-flopping about what appointment to make next, it worries me about who's giving them the football side of advice in there.
Nobody at the moment, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. We've had this discussion, and we've talked about Frank McPartland not being there anymore. Yet he was, but he certainly isn't now.
Very briefly, one game, and he wasn't employed. He just came in, but whatever's happened, and he's not there anymore.
So it makes me wonder there, and also there's this decision-making process, which still, from the outside looking in, seems to be a little on the clunky side. In terms of, PIF will, as 80% shareholders, have the final say on things. So how is that communication being made, and how expedient and timely can decisions being made? And to be fair, there was always going to be a degree of ironing that process out. But we don't need it when it's all hands to the pumps, in my opinion. So somebody needs to be given the free hand to make decisions, rightly or wrongly.
I think what I think you look back at other clubs and takeovers, and the buyers have put their bid in. They've got their plan, they've got the structure in place, and then the takeover has agreed, and then they're in. And it's usually a period of from the first time you've heard it until the second time. And it's being announced. It's usually a couple of weeks. Obviously, we had 18 months, and we had it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. And as somebody put in the comments there, Rafa was told that the deal was off, and he either that or my understanding was that he got sick of waiting, and he wanted to get his teeth into something, and thought the Newcastle job wasn't going to materialise until having heard about it, possibly at least January 2022, when the legal case has kicked off. But yes, he took a job, but what ended up with, all of a sudden, within that very, very short period of time, the new owners came in, and it's like, hang on, did we have a plan? Oh, the plan was Rafa. What's the plan now? Oh, the director of football was going to be so-and-so, and he's not available. And it kind of got, I'm not saying dumped on them, but you know what I mean? It just landed in that plate, and landed on their lap. And it was like, oh Christ, that's just landed in my lap. Now I've got to feed it. What am I going to do? What were our plans? Because it would have been, something that had been discussed, and as the discussions were going with the Premier League, and the takeover was being ratified by the authorities and getting rubber stamped, you would have been putting your plans in then. That's what all the other clubs would have done, whether it was an Aston Villa when they were taking over, or an Everton, or whomever, or a Wolves. But with Newcastle, it was so drawn out that I genuinely do think it took them by surprise. And I think we're suffering possibly from that. There's this little gap suddenly appeared, and we're now trying to fill those holes. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, interesting. Good luck Gateshead tonight, says Paul Hepplewhite. Yeah, good luck to Gateshead. ITV4, 7 o'clock, 7:45 kickoff. Gateshead play Charlton tonight for a place in the third round, which would be fantastic if we could get them through. And it'd be great to get a big draw against Newcastle. But we will see what happens tonight. Graham says, hi, you three legends. Thank you very much. Hope you are all well. Just a quick question. What's your thoughts on Eddie Howe's comments on Dwight Gayle? Do you think he'll get a chance or has his time passed? Rumours that he was going to be stuck on a loan list this morning. And Eddie Howe came out and really said that there was still a part to play at Newcastle. Steve, is that music to your ears?
Well, there will be a part to play, especially if there was an injury to Wilson, for example. It would be a part to play because you would need him. He's still a Newcastle United player. He's still training with the squad. He's still part of 25. So, yes, come January, there might not be a part to play if the lad himself and the manager, having looked at what they've got or having had an option of bringing in somebody else, might turn around and go, it's in your best interest. But, you know, that politics that managers come out with, the political speak that they use, yes, of course, there's a part to play. There's a part to play for, unless you've had a massive, massive fallout with a manager, then there's a part to play for everybody in that squad at some point, depending on the circumstances that arise on that particular week or that particular day. And as I say, if there's an injury to a couple of our strikers, there's an injury to San Maxim, an injury to Wilson, or, you know, suspensions or whatever, then yes. And let's face it, Wilson's sitting there on four bookings as well, isn't he? So it's really, you know, I think that's what he's getting at. Very political, very clever. The way that he's got to keep the members of the squad ready for if they're needed.
Yeah, Steve Hasty, he says, Mark Bayer says, Mr. Hasty's positioning makes that lampshade look like he's wearing his hair in a rather large man bun. Either that or he's balancing the moon on his head.
Nice one, Mark. I'll see what I can do next time.
Bad Boy Books, yeah, that's me company, Jack. You can get the Lee Clark and the Pavel Cernacek book on there as well. We've found a couple in a dusty drawer. So get on there, mate. Have a look. There's plenty of books for you to have a look at on there. And Every Boy's Dream will be going on there as well this week. Terry, it's not Bald Boys Books, mate. Dear me, how. Only you could come up with that. Mitch, Dwight Gayle. Eddie Howe says there's still a chance for him to contribute. What do you reckon?
Some of the things I've heard about Dwight Gayle over the last few years, about attitude on the training ground, and he's only there to pick his check up. If that's the case, Howe will have worked that out pretty early on. And there won't be a place for him going forward. It was also suggested he was the mole when Mr. Bruce was running around looking for the mole, and we're going, it's Dwight Gayle, by the way. It's like how can an idiot in bloody Dubai know it before the manager does? I just don't know. But I think his time's limited. I think the whole point of signing him on a contract was to preserve his value, and that's ultimately what it will have done. Now, if we can get any sort of income again to help balance any outlay in January for him, he's one of the first on the list for me as a potential, a source of income to add to the pot. And it's not like Ashley where it would just disappear in way, shape or form. This would be genuinely added to the pot, however much it is. And that's one thing the Premier League can't stop with doing. In terms of balancing the books, and I think he's a prime candidate for it. The squad needs trimmed. It's clear about that. The squad management over the last 5 years has been appalling, and so yeah, I personally don't see a future for him at all. And I think that coupled with some of the things I've been told about him attitude-wise, I think it's clear that a partner the way should happen.
Yeah, I would agree. Ian says, evening lads, my question is about VAR. Am I being paranoid or are the referees deliberately not going to VAR for us? Twice at Arsenal and once at home to Norwich. Steve, I get the feeling it's switched off. And I think the fact as well when we're at home to Norwich, we've only got one screen. I think that ultimately causes a bit of an issue as well. We don't seem to be quick enough to notify on the screen what's going on, and everything's just at a standstill. But yeah, what do you reckon? Is Ian being a bit paranoid?
Possibly, but there again, from what we've seen and some of the decisions, I thought the Joe Linton foul was at least worthy of being seen again and being looked at. I don't think it even went to VAR. So there's an example of neither. Well, an example of me and Ian probably thinking that VAR is not for us. It's working against her. I thought the length of time it took for the penalty decision, when everybody behind the goal and all the players, and I'm amazed not the referee, saw that it was a handball. But there's been other instances in other games where you're thinking, that's a clear and obvious foul, and the referee's just either played on, or if he has given a free kick, he hasn't even gone to VAR to see whether it's worthy of a sending off. And you're thinking to yourself, this is not right. Is there an agenda against it? And I listen to some of these referee pundits that we have now. All of a sudden we've got ex-referees coming on, and invariably they just say, "Well, I agree with the decision that was made," and the rest of the time side screaming at the telly, going, "What? You're joking? It was clear and obvious, But especially on the Monday when it's is it Gallagher, the referee who does the roundup on Sky?
Yeah, Dermot Gallagher.
Yeah, and Dermot just sits there, and I don't think I've ever heard him, even though he's no longer a referee, he must be still on the payroll, because I've never heard him say the referee's got it wrong in some of the decisions that have been clear and obvious penalties, clear and obvious fouls, etc., etc. He always bends to his former colleagues, and agrees with them. But no, I don't think we are paranoid. I think it's plainly obvious that when at the moment, and they always say it levels out throughout the season. I don't particularly agree with that, but it's obvious from what we're seeing that we're not getting the rub of the green, Steve.
No, definitely not. It's VAR controversy again, Mitch. We've talked about it on the show before, but it just doesn't feel like we're getting the rub of the green. And I mean, that happens when you're down the bottom.
I was going to say, I think we're not getting the rub of the green in some other ways as well, and it becomes a point where you get, we're being got at from every side at the minute. Every side. If somebody farts the wrong way on the training ground, there's a 2-page article on BBC Sport about it. And I think that doesn't help. It doesn't help how we feel. I personally quite like the, Millwall attitude. No one likes us, we don't care. Because it has a good way of galvanising people and, pull the wagons round. My problem with VAR is generally across the board. It's not consistently applied. The inconsistency you see in refereeing, that VAR was supposed to be there to help even out, has now become an inconsistency of application of VAR. And that's why the Premier League really do need to sit down with the referees' bodies and look at how the application of VAR is being used. When are VAR allowed to attract the referee's attention or not? When are they allowed to just go solo and say, right, no, move on, next, goal kick, etc.? And when does the referee need to step up and say, no, I need some help with this one, please? Because I think that's how it's not being evenly applied. From what I understand, everybody seems to be praising Dutch football for getting VAR right and what they're doing with VAR. And I think we really do, as the so-called best league in the world, need to spend some time again away from the heat of games to sit down and look at the application of VAR as a whole, because I think that's what's wrong, is we're being held to account by referees in a booth who are not always applying the same rules across the board all the time, which is the exact reason that VAR was supposed to be coming in to help with. And that's all that's happened. It's moved from the pitch to a booth in London, and that's wrong.
Yeah. Lots of people giving us their stuff about songs, some great songs getting a mention in an air. And Rachel didn't like the clap clap song though. She said no. So yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but yeah, it was just a reminisce. You mentioned farting there, Mitch, which I found quite interesting because it segues nicely into the article that was in a paper, which I won't mention and give it any publicity, but it said that Newcastle United had the smelliest supporters. Have you had any issues with smelly supporters?
Only when it hits 50 degrees out here.
67% we got is the smelliest supporters. I mean, who on earth does these kind of things?
Yet another stick, while that perceived as being down, to have a little poke at us with. And let's see what reaction we can get. Tell you what they are, is they're thick. Oh, no, they're not thick, they're smelly. That's what they are. You know, it's let's take some stereotypes and apply them randomly. But it's fine because it's Geordies. It would be different if it was a different demographic, for example. And we are constantly there to be shot at. And it's just all part of finding as many different ways as possible to have a little dig and then run around and play skinchies by saying, "Oh, it's just a tongue-in-cheek article, lads."
Yeah.
You know, and this is why we feel got at, because it's coming from everywhere. Attacks on that we should be aware of what's going on in Saudi Arabia with the LGBTQT plus community, to bodily hygiene, for fuck's sakes. You know, what's going to be the next one? We've got the longest hair, we've got the least hair, we've got no hair. You know, what the hell? It just is never ending, and yeah, very predictable, sadly.
Yeah,
you know what? That Steve, that article was actually written by a reporter from Ashington.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it. I thought, well,
he'll be one of them weird Northumberland Mackems, probably.
Yes, must be. And I wish somebody could find out, but I couldn't. But you know, there's no like you'd say there's no like being kicked when you were down, but there's no like being kicked by your own. You know, and for a it had to be a Mackem, because you obviously revelled in writing that little piece up, and I just found it just ridiculously crass and keep reporting, columnish reporting from a scum of a newspaper, and obviously the scum of a reporter.
Yeah, you kind of get much more forthright on opinions than this show at times, and I think we all agree on that one. Okay, on to one of our regular segments, and I've got to apologise, but we've had to change the music. For some reason, it got a bizarre copyright strike for the music. The channel didn't get a copyright strike, but the music is suddenly now copyrighted for The Day I Met. It's a proper deep and get out on one, isn't it? That one. But let's see whether that gets a copyright. I much prefer the old music. I don't know what on earth Neil's thinking of with that one. But thank you, Neil, Media Arts, for doing it. We've got something. Let's see whether that gets hit. Day I Met, where we ask you to send in photographs of players that you've met or people from the club. Big thank you to Anthony for this one. The Day I Met Terry Mack, Lee Clark, and Rafa Benitez. So there's Terry.
Excellent.
There's Lee.
Looking good.
And there's Rafa, who looks like Mike Ashley's just told him that he's going to have Joe Linton. But thanks for that, mate. It's always good to get these in. I have got a couple more. Bear with us. Here's the next one. And another one at Terry Mack. This is from Cheeky Chappy. He says, me and Terry Mack, after he showed me and my brother around the ground as a favour to my dad.
Brilliant.
A nice one.
Brilliant.
Older one, that one. And this one is from Hot Scott. And he says, I won on right, dude. On left turned out to be one of the best ever, about 1988. So happy memories there from when he met Gaza, which is great. But yeah, keep them coming in. We will try and get as many of those on over the next few weeks. But that is the day I met. Yeah, really heavy music, that one, Neil. But yeah, it'll do. Thank you for saving the day with that. And Nicholas from the Felons says, I would have Rafa as a director of football at the drop of a hat. He could work with Eddie Howe. Think out the box, get a Hollywood backroom staff, and we are becoming the pantomime villain. So let's give them a proper scare. Scott reckons we've got Kevin Keegan on with us tonight, Steve. It's not the first time you've been compared to Super Kev. And
better than Eric Gates.
That's true.
Yeah, it is better than Eric Gates. Donald says, stinky attitude is not what we need at this point. If Gayle doesn't want to be here, then move him on. Les says, anybody heard about the transfer in January about the rest of the Premier League not selling to us? Yeah, we've discussed that on the show before, Les. And like I said, agents will have a big say as to who goes where. And I'm afraid football clubs won't get that kind of idea in their heads. I don't think it's not going to be something that happens. Helen says, spent 8 years in Abu Dhabi, just came home in August, and everyone over there who had been to Newcastle loved every minute. Just getting back to the stuff that we've heard on TalkSport. Just want to say about the media as well, Steve. We're losing one of our regular reporters, aren't we, from the Chronicle? Mark Douglas. I mean, I stuck out a tweet there. Just want to wish him all the best. He's been very helpful to me over the years in helping promote some of the events that we've done with ex-Newcastle players and boxers and fighters, etc. He's also been a big supporter of the Pavel Cup, which has raised a lot of money for charity over the years before COVID hit. But yeah, he's been a good egg, Mark, hasn't he, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Great support. The Chronicle being great supporters of the work that's been done at with the Match Day Food Bank as well. I've got to give them praise for that. But Mark's been a stalwart now for 8-10 years, if not longer, at the Chronicle. I don't think he's moving far. I think he's still staying in the region. He's going to the I paper. It's something new, something different for him. But as I put on Twitter, I think there's been more changes, more transfers taking place within the media in the newspaper lads than there has been under Mike Ashley in the last 12 months. Quite frankly, we've seen more changes and more movements than we've brought in players. But I wish him well. I'm sure it'll go really, really well for him. Sometimes you do need to have a fresh look at what you're doing. I'm sure that's what it's all about. And Mark's a great reporter, a great lad, a great reporter. And even though he's not a Newcastle fan, I think in his heart he's got a soft spot for Newcastle. I think he's a Bradford City fan in reality.
He is.
But, yeah, and he moved up to the northeast. And he took on the role of reporting with the Journal and then the Chronicle. He's just very, very good at what he does. As most of the Northeast journalists are, by the way. Most of the local lads are very, very good at what they do. And Mark was certainly one of them. So I wish him well. I'm sure it'll go well. I'm sure we'll be hearing plenty more from him. And maybe he's even more forthright in some of his comments than there have been in the Chronicle as well.
Yeah, Mitch, it's always sad to see somebody who's been a useful asset, I guess, and he hasn't been afraid to get involved in the politics. Some of it I've disagreed with, of course. We've had our moments, shall we say, which is part of the course when you support Newcastle. We're all grown men. We can have disagreements and still move on. But he's done a lot of good as the main man at the Chronicle, I think.
He was always a delight to work with. He gave me the grace of having an occasional column in the Chronicle review from the Middle East.
He created a monster, Mitch.
I know. And he was always open to receiving ideas and to sharing things. So one of the big examples was, that stadium redevelopment idea where the pitch is turned through 90 degrees. He loved running with that after I shared that with him. That was done by one of my patients, who's actually been in touch this week and said he's had some more ideas about what else they could do at St James's. So I feel a beer and a chat coming on. But he, Mark ran with things like that. He was also really good as if you shared something with him in confidence, he didn't let it go. And he used it as a basis to then get more information, proper reporting. And I think you're right, Steve. I think for all he's a Bradford City fan, I think part of his heart is black and white as well, out of all of that. And I think he was always fair.
Yeah.
I think he was always fair as a reporter. I don't think he tried to be too controversial or aggressive. I think he always had quite a balanced view. And it'd be interesting to see where the Cron goes next as well.
Yeah. No, yeah, 100%. Gary says, of all the tossers who've had a pop at everything Newcastle, which one would you most like to slap? We don't endorse violence on here, Gary. It's not that kind of show. We're all old gadgets anyway. We couldn't lift our hands in anger. So I'll leave that one for you to discuss in the chat.
I'd like to have a stern discussion with Miguel Delaney, though.
Well, we met him at the first game, didn't we, Steve? I bumped into him and shook his hand. So. Yeah. But he
took him by surprise.
I did, yeah. He didn't think I would recognise him, did he? We both cottoned on. Can we expand the stadium? Somebody's asked that earlier on. Yeah, we can. But I don't think we'll be loving doing that at this moment in time, will we?
The 7,000 option was always there. It just wasn't for other owners who didn't necessarily have a bit of spare cash, viable financially, over a 10-year period to make the money back on what it would cost to do that. And that's why it was never done. So there is room for a small amount of expansion. There always has been.
Yeah. The way that it was put over at the Fans Forum when we raised that point was, or the way it was given back to us by the finance people, was that they would look at the cost. Let's say it was going to be 60 million, I think was the figure, around about the figure they quoted. Maybe it was either 40 or 60 million. And then they looked at the number of seats. And then they go, right, over a period of the repayment of that money or whatever, that means that each seat would be valued at X amount of pounds. And then they would go, and then the money men just look at it and put a big cross and go, no, because you'll not get your money back. That's the way that Ashley looked at it.
Yeah.
So he worked out that each seat was going to cost X thousands of pounds. And then what would the season ticket price be to recoup that in a 10-year period or a 5-year period or whatever they were extrapolating it on. And then they go, not viable, don't want to know. And it literally was that. I mean, that's the way that it was put over to us when the question was asked probably at least half a dozen times over the period that the Fans Forum sat, from what, 2011, 2012, right way through to 2019. It wasn't a subject that just got skirted over. Every time there was a new set of fans took up a position on the Fans Forum, they would ask the question of the owners or of the owners team, what about expansion of the ground? And everybody knows that it can expand to 60,000 without any problems. That was the Sir John Hall. That's the way that the ground was configured. Just carry on, spin that around the top of the Gallagher, extend it just like we've done with level 7 on the Milburn, bring it all the way around, and we can get another 7,000 in with possibly some boxes that are sitting in the gap, and just make it all 3 sides. So
it was looked at by the Gagliardi J. Robson bid.
Yeah.
And that was why they come to the conclusion they were looking for a new site for the ground, because it wasn't in their eyes viable in terms of a costing exercise to just do that. They wanted more. Yeah. And the best cost-effective way to get more was to look for a new ground.
Yeah. Obviously, the other plan that we all know of was the fact that you could convert virtually on the footprint the East Stand. And there was that amazing design that was put forward that basically turned the entire back of the East Stand and the roof into glass. And that was supposed to help with the not just the sight lines, but it was more the light that was going to be blocking out the buildings behind. And that was an amazing design. I think, Steve, you're well aware of it because of your
Yeah.
time when you were as fans years and officer, you know.
It was the old chief executive who showed me the plans, and it was basically to build on the to knock the Leisure stand down, take it away, and to buy the university buildings behind, and to, with them being listed buildings, incorporate the front fascia of those buildings into a new stand, so they would then become the turnstiles which people walked through. Quite an elaborate plan. But the problem with that David Stonehouse quite rightly explained was that the cost of doing that, you could actually buy a new stadium to build that one stand because of all of that messing around you've got to do with like the listed building. But the interesting point about that is that I think those university buildings are now owned by Saudis.
Yes, they are.
So that would be interesting, whether these people are connected to the people who got the takeover. Who knows? But it'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I mean, again, got to park that at the minute. We've got to stay up. We've got to get players in. They've got to improve the training facilities. We've seen images of them making that gym next to the dressing room, for example, as well. So little things happening is going to happen. But yeah, Geordie Tupel, I hope that answers your question. I think it will be eventually, but we need to have a team first that we're going to have more bums on seats, haven't we? We're not doing a watch along for the Gateshead game, mate. No, watch alongs are so difficult now with us, especially for Newcastle games, because we're all back in the match, and some of the regulars who were doing it, me, Pete, Holly, just to name three, we all go to games. Home and away, and it's just so difficult. And it's although people like Daz and Martin would love to do them, there's just not enough people to actually do them. And it's one of those things. It was a lockdown thing for us. There's plenty other podcasts out there who do watch along. So try and find a one out there that does them on a regular basis. But no apologies, I'm not doing it for the Gateshead game. Sad to hear yes about Ray Kennedy, great player. And a local lad as well. Yeah, lots of tributes coming in for Ray Kennedy. Hell of a player, hell of a talent. And it was sad to see him lose his fight for life this week. Big shout out then to our sponsors, Spider VPN. Google Spider VPN. They come up the top of your search list for all your internet security. They are the boys to trust. Also, thank you to skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contact free and pay as you go waste collection. Thank you also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 0191 389 7245 and to John at qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. And also the guy who runs our website, NUFCmatters.com. Thanks also to John and Jab Signature for doing our flyers. Jabsignature.co.uk is his website. Newcastle Legends, just tap on that on the screen and you can subscribe to the channel for free if you're a first-time visitor. Hit the thumb up to like the video. It does do us a lot of favors with the algorithms on YouTube. And click share to share your other social media or to share with your mates. Stick it in WhatsApp, send it to your WhatsApp groups. Just help us spread the word that we are an ongoing Newcastle United podcast. And also drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available on iTunes and Spotify. Big thank you to one of the lads on Twitter today who said he got his Spotify list. And this was his favourite podcast on his Spotify list. I don't know whether you're on Spotify, anybody out there, but you tend to get like an annual assessment of what you've listened to the most. And I think NUFC Matters will come up on quite a few people's. But we're available on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Got a lot of events coming up over the next few months, I guess. But the one we want to go to first is Peter Beardsley, Sunday, the 30th of January. You can get your tickets for that on Google and Voucher. Make a nice Christmas gift for somebody. Then we've got Mick Mahoney, super goalie, at the Tyneside Irish Centre on Friday, January the 14th. And you get tickets for that priced at £12 from newcastlelegends.com. And an evening with Steve Watson, newcastlelegends.com. Again, tickets for that one are £12. Don't forget, we've got the food bank operational tomorrow outside the ground. But if you can't make the game and you want to make a virtual deposit, then go to NUFC Fans Food Bank The Matchday Bucket can take your donation 365 days of the year. And just a couple of little things on the website at the moment. The Eddie Howe t-shirt, which is selling well, and the Christmas jumpers are doing well as well. Hark Now Here with Peter Beardsley on, and Happy Christmas, you cult jumpers as well, doing particularly well. Don't forget as well, you can join the cult. The cult membership is up there. Get yourself on there, nufcmatters.com, to find out all about that. You can enter our prize draw. And don't forget as well, the books are on sale at the back page. Every Boy's Dream. I was in there today, absolutely chock-a-block, which was great to see after the fact that it was shut up through COVID. Pablo's and Geordie's available in there, and the Enemy books. So get yourself into the back page shop. And if you're not interested in books, there's t-shirts, there's God knows what, and then get your replica shirts as well, because they're a dying breed, unfortunately. I'm not going to be able to get them much longer, but well worth having a look. And from our perspective, always a good place to go. Now, Steve Hasty, you have a father's errand to go. What time have you got to go off?
I'm going to have to shoot off at about 6:45, lads.
6:45, that's fine. Well, when you go, we will bring Toon Tipster in a little bit early, mate. But you've got to go and pick your daughter up, and please pass on my best. But what we will do now, whilst you're here, is we will have a Tweet of the Week. Tweet of the Week, where we ask you to send in funny tweets. Might be something we've seen, but yeah, we've had quite a few. We've been copied in on this week, and we'll start with this one. This was from Craig. He says, "Wait till you see what happened to the speedboat." Of course, we've had a big storm over the last few days. Some people, unfortunately, not even being able to watch NUFC Matters. They've got no power to do so. But yeah, the caravan upturned there. And I think most of you who of a certain vintage will remember Bullseye and the bizarre prizes people used to win on there. Randall Bell, God bless Tim Krul's crisp packet hands. That's just in reference to the fact that penalty went in against Norwich the other night. I thought that was a good reference. Paul Hunter, he says it's here, boom, he's got his membership, so well done, mate. He says he's now a member of the cult. So Paul, thanks for your support, mate. Nice to see John getting that out to you as well. Ian Hull sent this: Eleanor Rigby suddenly realised she'd left her face in a jar by the door. Bizarre, absolutely bizarre. But he did tweet it. He did copy us in on that, which was quite funny. Thanks, mate. Steve Howie speaking his mind. As all good Newcastle fans wanted to. This has pissed me off, shocking to say, that Newcastle is an amazing place and amazing people. And I saw so many of those kind of tweets from a lot of the expats as well. People who came from London to play. Rob Lee, Warren Barton, rightly having a pop at a Bongla horse. So great to see the ex-players, making their point today. I love this one from Paul Toon. Newcastle fans remember their last win. It feels like that. It does feel like that. Christ, we're into December now. We're still not going to win. This one, Rocky Toon, VAR in Sunday League football. Yeah. True. It's very that is good. I did like this one. Now, anyone who's read the Lee Clark book or the Pavel Cernacek book, which you can get at the back page, will know they were put together by a great writer, Will Scott, who used to write for the Northern Echo, and occasionally he posts a little bit of political satire. I don't know whether everyone's noticed if you follow him on Twitter. I did like this one. Before you judge Boris, walk a mile in his shoes.
Excellent.
Absolutely brilliant. I did like this one as well. Nan bed for sale comes with 2 pillowcases.
Oh, God.
Brilliant.
I want one of them.
I knew you would say that.
It looks really good, doesn't it? That is absolutely fantastic. I don't think Dawn would go for it, but yeah, I do. I
Good
do
luck
like
with that one, Steve.
Yeah, I think I'm onto a loser there. Craig Irvin goes. He was responding to this. A Sunderland supporter's view from their seat at Cambridge United today. He went, I'd rather stare at that post for 90 minutes than watch Sunderland anyway, to be honest. That was class. Frank Chipperfield, he's in again, lad. I've been an NUFC fan for 51 days and I've not seen us win yet.
Keep the faith, Frank. Keep the faith.
I do like Frank. I love this one as well from Ben Wallace. Michael Owen tweeted, looks like I won't be going anywhere for a while. Ben Wallace says, got to be a bench knocking about for you to sit on while you wait.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. That one was, for me, was tweet of the week. Keep them coming in, keep tagging us in them, and we will try and get through as many of them as we can. But thanks very much for all who contributed. So because you're going to be dashing off in 10 minutes, Steve, let's look at Burnley, because I would like to get your views. Obviously, Newcastle United take on Burnley tomorrow. It's not televised. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff, good old-fashioned 3 o'clock kickoff, as we know. There are some tickets remaining, which are now on public sale, so you might be able to get a ticket if you are keen to go. For Eddie Howe, this is his 11th meeting with the side that he managed a decade ago. And, of course, we covered Burnley recently on the Retro Show, and we put Eddie Howe in there. So it's going to be an interesting game. I've got to be perfectly honest. Kieran Clark suspended, of course, after his ludicrous sending off, which we haven't covered tonight. I don't think we want to reminisce about that. Jamal Lascelles and Matt Ritchie are, of course, both available after completing their one-match bans for hitting the 5 yellow card limit. Paul Dummett, still remains unavailable, and it's been diagnosed as a persistent calf strain. What on earth is going on with Paul Dummett? I really do not know. As for Burnley, a player that we've been linked with, Tarkowski, and Ashley Westwood will both be available for selection. They have now served one-match bans as well. Phil Bardsley might return, but Ashley Barnes still remains out due to injury, and Dale Stevens is one of those players who had COVID, and he is still recovering from that. Burnley, well, they've extended their unbeaten Premier League record to 5 games now. They got a 0-0 draw at Wolves on Wednesday night. Only one of those games, though, has resulted in 3 points for Burnley. Burnley haven't won a game on their travels so far this season. They've lost at Everton, Man City, Liverpool, Leicester, Southampton, and they've drawn, at Leicester, Southampton, and Wolves. So, Steve Hasty, this is, as it was against Norwich, a must-win game. But, because of that draw the other night, we need this win. We've got to win.
Absolutely. Desperate for a win. Got to get that monkey off your back, first of all, haven't you? I mean, Eddie Howe must be... I mean, I feel for Eddie Howe, to be perfectly honest, because, he got the job and there was the hold-up. He got COVID. Everything seems to have stopped. He's had 3 goals, hasn't he, so far? If you look at the Brighton game, they didn't quite get him into the hot seat in time. So he was sitting in the crowd watching. He catches COVID, so he's during that point he's only had the players that were available. Those that weren't on international duty, so the likes of Almiron, he's barely seen. He then catches COVID, so he's not in a position to be able to be even there at the training ground. And then on his first home game, he ends up in a situation where he's down to 10 men after only 80 minutes, and all his plans that he's put in place to get through the 90 minutes of the game have gone up in smoke. So everything seems to be going, against him, and I feel for him because he's not had the run of the green yet. And I'm hoping tomorrow, then we'll finally see Eddie Howe at St James's Park with a team selection that is his, that managed to see a game out and his plans are actually put into place. I mean, I've dismissed the Arsenal game because that purely because of what we talked about earlier, which was the VAR and some of the decisions that were made, which were ridiculous. But no, I mean, it's a vital game. We're talking about 6-pointers. This is almost a 12-pointer, isn't it? If there's ever such a thing. I'm just everybody's so desperate. I don't think, did I read right that we've never won a game since at home since Chelsea? Is that right?
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
since that Chelsea game when Hayden scored that winner in the 94th minute, unbelievable if that's the case. But all of these things are history, aren't they? We've just got to get 3 points. And Burnley, as you've said, you've mentioned their record there, Steve. Away from home, they don't have a very good record. They're one of those bogey teams, though, in terms of the type of players that they have. You know you're going to be in a game with them. Certainly, your defenders know you're going to be in a game with the likes of Chris Wood up front, because he can cause you problems. And I would hate to be a centre half that has to mark him, because he's just a big, burly, typical sort of old school centre forward, isn't he? He'll knock you around and bash you up and give you a good kicking at times. But no, got to get a win, Steve. Got to get a win. We're desperate for it. Once again, it's going to be nervy. But the players showed with that commitment in midweek that they'll have something in them. There was some great performances by players that we didn't expect. And we seem to have a bit of a shape and a bit of a pattern to us. And it's going to be interesting when the team's announced at 2:00.
Yeah. Okay, Steve, we're going to let you go, mate. It's 18:42. I don't want you to be late, mate. Great to have you on, as always. And
thanks very much, guys.
Take care. I'll hopefully see you Steve tomorrow, mate. Take care, pal.
Yep, see you tomorrow. Take care now.
Okay, we're going to bring in Toon Tipster. Here he is. Took you by surprise, lad.
I know, I wasn't ready for that. All right.
No, we took you by surprise, mate. So I tell you what, I'm going to let you compose yourself, and we're going to listen to our old friend Toon Stato, who give us the full input on the game before we go to you, and then go to Mitch for his feelings on the game.
Hello, amigos. Cheers from Bucharest, Romania. What are the stats before the game tomorrow against Burnley? You might have heard that only 3 teams so far have started the season with 14 games without a win. Swindon in 93-94, QPR in 2012-2013, and Sheffield United last season. And none of the 3 teams actually managed to survive in the Premier League. Newcastle will be the first one if they manage to do it, since they go into their 15th game of the season without a win tomorrow. And the history with Burnley in the Premier League at St. James's Park is only 6 games, 5 in the league, 1 in the League Cup this season. Newcastle has 2 wins and 4 draws, still no defeat at St. James's Park. Burnley are the draw specialists, like they have drawn 4 out of their last 5 games. And they are on a little unbeaten series right now. At the same time, Newcastle are over-reliant on Callum Wilson, who scored in midweek against Norwich, and he has overall 17 out of the last 62 goals of Newcastle in the Premier League, which is 27% of all the goals, including 5 out of 5 from the spot. Kieran Quark won't have a chance to repeat what he did on Tuesday when he got the second fastest red card for Newcastle in the Premier League in the 9th minute. Only Nikos Dabizas back in 2002 against Blackburn, when we lost 5-2 at Ewood Park, was faster than him. Let's wish Eddie Howe and the lads good luck tomorrow. It's a vital game and we need a win.
Definitely do need a win. I think we're all agreed on that. And here is our very own Toon Tipster. There you go, Joe. You've had your music. You're ready. You've composed yourself. On your go, lad.
Thank you, gentlemen. So, this week was a typical one in the life of a Newcastle United fan. I'd worked hard all week. I'd looked forward to the game. I travelled miles in the cold. Had a great crack with the lads. Eagerly awaited the very impressive team news. And I got mega excited for the first of many wins this season. And then, bang, 9 minutes later, I was back on my phone looking out to get the Millwall away. Last time I saw a drag back like that, Wraithy was stopping a 15-year-old me from trying to sneak into Tiger. In other news, and he's gone now, this has ruined me joke, hasty buggering off. Anyway, in other news, I joined Ancestry.com this week in the hope of proving that I had some Irish lineage so I could get a flat, warm, overpriced pint after the game in the home of the smelliest fans in the world. After hours of meticulous research, I remembered that I do actually qualify for membership in the Irish Centre because I saw Ray Houghton score that goal for Ireland against Italy in the 94 World Cup. So bottoms up, Mr. Hasty. Look forward to a pint. Everything else has been pretty quiet this week, to be honest. Although I did go to Durham to visit an elderly gentleman that some of you might remember from the good old days. I passed on all your regards, and I even changed his pad on behalf of NUFC Matters. Business opportunity there, Q-Tech. Anyway, on to the match. And for the second week in a row, believe it or not, Newcastle United are favourites to win at 13-10. If you fancy Burnley, they're 11-5. And I've noticed that the draw is well fancied at 23-10. Just over evens if you fancy 2.5 goals in the game. And that's the same price if you think it'll be tight and they'll be under 2.5. 1-0 Newcastle, 8-1. 2-1 Newcastle, 9-1. And 3-1 Newcastle, if you're feeling really frisky and really festive, is 20-1. I do get the sense that we're going to absolutely batter someone soon. So I'm hoping that Gateshead get through in the cup and the draws kind to us in January. If you fancy the defeat, 1-0 Burnley, 11-1. 2-1 Burnley, 12-1. 0-0 draw, 9-1. And ones each is 6-1. Callum Wilson is favourite to score any time in the game, followed by a player that I like a lot in Chris Wood for Burnley at 2-1. Our Brazilian hyper talent, J7, is 12-5 and ASM 11-4. And the very impressive Federico Fernandez is 16-1 if you fancy him from a set piece. Another penalty at St James's is 12-5 and another red card is 9-2. In terms of the food bank, Tim Krull did the business for us on Tuesday night by throwing Callum Wilson's penalty in the roof of the Gallagher net, and the pot rose to £75. Odds tomorrow, 11-10. So if Wilson scores, we'll stick another tenner in there. And as for the Toon Tickle, the bet that never wins, I'm going back to the northeast, and I'm determined that this bet is going to come in one day. Newcastle, Sunderland and Middlesbrough all to win at just under 6-1. Although Liverpool, Southampton and Rangers all to win seems much more sensible at 3-1. I have had a dream lately that Newcastle will score 4 at some point soon. It's definitely coming. And if that's tomorrow, that'll be 12-1. So gamble away, people. Please don't chase your losses. And thank you very much.
12-1 for 4 goals. That's a joke, that like.
But hey, Big Joe get 5 tomorrow.
Thanks as always, mate, to you and Andre for your sterling effort. Mitch, 6-pointer, mate.
It is. Quickly feel I need to make reference to the Norwich game and Kieran Clark in particular. I gather he's had some quite vile emails and letters sent to the club.
Oh, well, that's
which is absolutely out of order. The things I know about Kieran that aren't public knowledge, you would understand what that lad really does care about the club, and nobody would be more upset about what happened the other night than him. And I think it's time to back off. We've got to move on, stick together. Everybody goes forward together. Stop looking for scapegoats. We're not in a position to do that. We've just got to go forward together. Kieran's, like I say, he's probably more upset than anybody else. I reckon if you could give him that pass again 200 times, he wouldn't make the same mistake. You know, it was genuinely a mistake, and frustration or what have you leads to a tangle of legs and a drag back. So, you know, just typical Newcastle. It feels like we're back over a box full of black cats, isn't it? You know. Anyway, moving forward, because that's what we've got to do. There's lots to take out of that game. To play from the 9th minute and come out with a point which really you could say, if it wasn't for the last 8 or 9 minutes where we were obviously tired and under the cosh a little bit, we could have taken 3 from that, and people wouldn't have really been that upset about it. So, you know, there's lots as a squad we can carry forward out of it, but it just turns this game into, like Steve said, if there was ever a 12-pointer, this is it. And interesting backstories with Howe being connected to them as well. And I think I'll be interested to see what he does to the team tomorrow with more people available, who comes back in and who may not. Because I don't think Lewis at left back did anything to justify being dropped at all for me. But then if you want Matt Ritchie in your side, where does he then fit in around that? I think ESM looks exciting every time, but at the minute he doesn't seem to be delivering end product for me. And so he's got some interesting selection questions to ask rather. So I'll be interested to see how we'll come out and how we'll line up. And it's ridiculous to be saying in this team at this time rather that we're in a must-win situation, but we genuinely are. As Toon Statos come out with those statistics, we're genuinely up against it, but also records are made to be broken. And it would be nice to see us for once being the team that pulls out the stops to break records, rather than be the problem solver. Oh, your striker's not scored in 6 goals. Don't worry, you'll beat St James's next week. You'll be fine. You know, we're constantly the problem solvers for other teams who've gone 9 away games without winning, and they rock up at St James's Park and somebody scores a deflected goal off of their striker's backside, and that's it. They're off with 3 points, and we've solved their problem. It would be nice to see us to solve our own problem and break some records. And what I like is the noise coming from inside the dressing room and the noise coming from inside the club is all keeping positive, keeping going, ignoring the stats, because yeah, they are there to be broken. So I'd love to see another. We play all of our next home games with the intensity that we played with 10 men for 80 minutes. We're not going to be far wrong. There's not many teams alike coming to St James's Park with that, and we'll do a lot better. So let's turn it on again tomorrow and see where we end up.
Yeah, let's turn it on. Let's hope so. It's a huge game, isn't it, Joe, for us tomorrow? And I think a lot of people, you know, that I've spoken to over the last 7 days would say that if we didn't get, you know, if we don't win tomorrow, then it's going to be mission impossible almost to get out of this.
Is there anything you can do about this incessant bullying that's going on in the chat, Steve? Have you seen the horrendous crap?
Just wait till you get the lookalikes, mate. That's mild, believe you me.
I should have stayed at work. I completely agree. I completely agree with what Mitch has said, Steve. I genuinely went into Tuesday night full of hope. Genuinely went in thinking this is it now. This is the chance to kick on. I've been impressed with what I've seen in terms of work rate and actually closing down and looking like we've got a tactical plan going into games. I must admit, Leeds United, Brentford, Norwich, they haven't been very good. And I think that says a lot for us. You know, I feared after 10 minutes last week, because I thought there's a week's worth of work. Obviously, we weren't very good at Arsenal, but this is the chance to kick on now. And the whole plan went out the window. So I was proud of the lads on Tuesday. But yet again, I came away, I was absolutely gutted. I said to the lads on the way home, you know, I just felt empty, because if we're not picking up points against the likes of Norwich City, Leeds and Brentford at home, this is an uphill battle. And I can't work out whether it's going to be an absolute disaster if we get beat tomorrow and end up going down, or that's exactly what we need to literally reset our football club and start again. So, yeah, you know, we've only just put the Christmas tree up and here we are talking about 12 pointers. It's just a measure of where we're at. I feel sorry for Amanda Staveley. I feel sorry for PIF, and I feel sorry for Eddie Howe. He's inherited an absolute shit show, and that's what we've got.
Yeah, Fernandez for me is a must start tomorrow. I mean, his performance was phenomenal the other night, and if he doesn't start tomorrow and Lewis doesn't get a chance tomorrow, I think there'll be a few raised eyebrows. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It always is when that team comes out. I think Bruce's team was often predictable, but it was just nice to see that, you know, Eddie Howe has come in and he's learning quite quickly who's the grafters and who isn't. And there's just an air of, you know, hope again. And that's all we really wanted. And Joe Linton especially, he's never going to be a £40 million striker, but he's actually developing into quite a rough and tumble centre midfielder. And we're going to need that tomorrow, Mitch. A bit of rough and tumble against these big lads at Burnley.
Well, that word physicality, Burnley are going to come with a degree of physicality. And Joe Linton should be rough and tumble. He's 6 foot odd and built like a cruiserweight boxer. You know, he should be the one bullying people because he's built enough. And this is part of why I've banged on for the last few months about there's a bloody good footballer in there somewhere. You just need to unlock it. And Eddie Howe seems to have gotten Sadie Segi. The other one he seems to have gotten inside the head of very, very quickly is Shelby too. Shelby's playing a very different game. And looks more integrated with the squad. He looks less like a loner. And so I think we're going to need all of those abilities. We're going to need to be combative tomorrow. Otherwise, you know, they could potentially bully with. But I don't think anybody's going to bully Joe Linton on the form he's shown in the last 2 games.
Central defensive midfield, Dunham, is the right way to play him. He's very like Mo Diarmi, Mitch.
He's, I get the feeling it could be anything he wants to be. You just have to get him believing that. For me, I think if you can get him believing that, then I think you're going to see him just kick on from here. As I've often talked about, in a world of square pegs and round holes, he was always an octagon. He was like, well, what the hell do we do with him? And he was so frustrating because of that. But he didn't look like he knew what he wanted to do or be. And I think if it's been as simple as that, as sorting out, right, you are going to do this and you're going to be this, and you're going to have free rein to use your talents however you want to use them, fine by me. If we get more out of him like that, you can't complain about it. And the 40 million price tag then weighs less heavily on his shoulders. I think taking the number 9 off him was such a sensible decision. And again, some people cannot carry the weight of that shirt at St James's Park. They just can't. And so I think that is all part of getting them into the right place. I think was it Bob Paisley who said that some players needed a kick and some needed a cuddle.
Yeah.
And I think he's one who needs a cuddle constantly.
It's called man management.
Aye.
That's basically what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's great to see, and I agree with Shelby. And I made this point yesterday when I did the show with Malcolm, that Shelby at the end of that Norwich game was absolutely shattered, and he literally stood in the Leazer's end in the box, bent over, taking his boots off, rolled his socks down, steaming basically, and he was literally he'd given everything, and that isn't a John Joe Shelby we have seen at all in the time that he's come to Newcastle. No. Certainly not over the last few years. He's been the biggest liability, and he's just sitting back playing World Cup balls, you know, and now we're seeing him grafting, but we're also seeing him putting these passes in. And the only thing that really let us down with the balls that he was playing the other night was that people didn't anticipate them. They've been that used to playing with the old Shelby, that now, you know, they've got this new improved one that they're going to, if Callum Wilson just anticipates a bit more tomorrow, He'll be one-on-one with a goalkeeper on more than one occasion tomorrow, I think. But it's great. Jano's chipped in with the team. He goes to Dubravka, Manquillo, Shaw, Fede, Lewis. Well, that's my back four in defence sorted. Shelvey, Ritchie, Murphy, ASM, Wilson, and J7. 4-1-2-3. I think this provides cover going forwards and backwards and legs in midfield. Interesting that you've got Shelvey, Ritchie, Murphy, and ASM in there. It's a lot of question marks. I've got to be honest over ASM, but he's just, you carry him sometimes, don't you? I guess, Joe, you carry him sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Steve. I've been criticised on numerous occasions about my opinion of ASM, and I was extremely frustrated on Tuesday night with him. Although, interestingly, I don't know how he managed to do so little, but the minute we took him off the park and brought Miggy on, it looked like that was it. We didn't have anything going forward. I thought Callum Wilson's performance was very strange. I didn't think he was in the game. Interesting bit about the team there that we've just seen on the screen. As much as I've been a massive fan of him and he's ran through brick walls for the club, I don't think Matt Ritchie should get back in the side. I think it's time for Lewis. He looked good. He looked hungry. He looked quick. He was getting into the tackle. There was a couple of occasions when the play broke down and when they were coming at us down their right, our left. And I'm thinking, that's a yellow card for Ritchie. Ritchie doesn't make that. Ritchie makes a foul. So I was very impressed. I'd hate to think that Jamal Lascelles was getting back in the side tomorrow, although there was a couple of heart-in-mouth moments with Fabian Schär on Tuesday night, may I add. But I thought Fernandez is the one solid performer that we've been crying out for. John Joe Shelvey, absolutely superb. I've always thought, work rate aside, that we look better with him in than without him in. But I've got to give a special mention to the player that Mitch was talking about, Joe Linton, Steve. He's been absolutely superb. And not only, but me and the old fella have been sat watching him, for a good couple of weeks now. There's a man of the match performance there. His work rate, he struck a ball. He struck a ball on Tuesday night that flew over the bar, and I'm thinking he wouldn't have reached the 18-yard line if he'd have tried that, 6 months ago. I don't know what they've done. It says a lot that if it is a man management, kind of response that he's having to Eddie Howe. I thought Steve Bruce was this magnificent man manager who could get a tune out to people and was really good at putting their arms around people and stuff. Whatever the coaching team have said, whatever they've done with the lad, he looks tremendous. He looked tremendous at right back, central midfield, going forward. He was absolutely all over the park, and his heat map proved that. So maybe we found a way of getting something out of him. And for me, he starts to become the first player on the team sheet, and who thought we'd be saying that a year or two back, because he was absolutely hopeless. So yeah, I don't see why we should change the side. I think if Fernandez comes in for Clark naturally, it was delightful to see Dubravka back in goal, and I think we've got to mention Dubravka as well, because your heart goes in your mouth every time that Darlow's got it. He was commanding, his area, and we could hear him shouting at the defence, which again is something you don't hear Carl Darlow doing. So as much as it was an awful result, I think there is positives, and I think this is a real opportunity now with suspensions and with a couple of niggly injuries. Eddie Howe's got a chance to say, we're doing it this way now, and if Manquillo and Murphy and players like that are the way forward, then let's get behind him and let's go with it.
Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to this before we finish, because we've got to go to this. You look alike, Ian. Yeah, you have your head in shame, lad. You were sending in pictures of you this week. You were sending me pictures of various things as well. So there's a lot of fun going on here. Somebody copied us in on this one anyway. We'll start with this one of Bologna. Somebody asking if that's me. No, it's not, but very similar. Sorry, I couldn't remember who sent us that. I got sent that pretty much at the start of the week. Jacob sent this one when Steve Wraith at ITV Studios tonight for a live broadcast. I don't look bad, we'll do it. Anyway, thank you for that, Jacob. Steve Hasty would have liked this one. Bono. I can see. I think using the white haired photo probably doesn't give you the dark haired one probably better. Jacob said this one as well. Great way to start a week. Realised last night Steve Wraith isn't the only film star involved within NUFC matters. He has Steve Hasty filming Jeepers Creepers in 2001. I don't think Steve would have liked that one. It is harsh, yeah. Billy says, Steve Wraith, singer from James. Yeah, we've had that one a few times, but yeah, I'll take that one. Steve Hasty modelling his T-shirt with the Quakers on the front. Very good. And this one was sent by Stu Penman. Steve Hasty at the top and Mitch at the bottom. That's from your so-called friend.
But it's better than the one Joe sent in him last week, so sorry.
Yeah, Joe's been back. Steve Thompson said, hi, Steve. Tune lookalike. He's Sean Longstaff with his dodgy tash and Brian Murphy from George and Mildred. That's a blast from the past. But yeah
cracking, isn't it?
He was clearly doing the Movember and definitely looks like George from George and Mildred. This was on the Chronicles website. I noticed this one. And I did see this guy at the match. Is that Steve Hasty fan? A UFC man, a Steve Hasty fan at the back. Look at that hair. But I did see him down at Arsenal. I wasn't convinced it was his hair. Me and Holly didn't. Dad were looking and going, is that his hair? Is that I don't know. But yeah, good show by me. Early contender Borough Mag for Toon lookalike Robin Williams.
See, they're better. That's better.
That's nice, isn't it? But you see, this is called buttering you up, mate. This is called buttering you up for What's About to Come.
Fair enough.
This one just from Tom Hogg. I had to actually inbox him and asked who that was. He goes, Mitch. That's a brilliant picture. No matter who you're trying to say that is, it's a brilliant picture. Graham Coleman says, Toon lookalike Eddie Howe and Alan Tracy of Thunderbirds are go. Very good.
Well, we need rescuing.
We do need rescuing, international rescue. Late one, this one from Alan. He says, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Steve Wraith. And then he's just put a combination of people with no hair. Brian Cranston, Sean Connery, Bruce Willis, and Captain Picard on there. But I'll take all of them, mate. I am starting to become a little bit older and distinguished, as is Steve Hasty, as we know. And NUFC Iceman, big shout out to him and his podcasts and his family, comparing him to Santa Claus, the movie, I think that is. This one was from Sam Chipperfield. He's in the chat tonight. Chip, as he says, seen Steve Hasty this morning. He's gone full Back to the Future. He definitely has. This one was sent in from Simi. He goes, seen Old Etonian on Tyne Tees the night. Very good, that one. This one, and the winner of the Ballon d'Or 2002 goes to Steve Wraith. And then we come into these ones from someone from Middlesbrough. Yeah, that's Steve Hasty. This one. Is that Keith Lemon?
One of them's Mitch. I don't know which one.
One of them's Mitch. I don't know which one. Then this. Where, man? Dear me, how? And then the final one, fair play, you can have a good laugh at yourself. Very good, that. Very good. Thanks for those. This was really good. Steve Hasty sent me this one. Chris Moore and Ralph Ranić, who's, of course, just gone to Manchester United. Very good likeness there. And coming into the final furlong, Ian Hull sent this. Toon lookalike, the Toon tipster, and Russell Mail from Sparks. This town ain't big enough for the both of us. Dun, 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 dun. Very good. I did like that one. It was this one. Toon lookalike from Tom Dixon, Carl Darlow, and Martin Dubravka. That's returning to one.
Very that, isn't it?
Toon lookalike is supposed to be about. This was one of my favourites.
That's outrageous.
What was he called? What was his line? What was the line he used to say?
Oh, you want Sham? I'll give it you.
Good champ.
He looks like a dehydrated version of you, Joe.
It does,
Like a freeze-dried version of Joe.
10 weeks on my diet or something like that. Brilliant. Then we have this one from Garfield Thompson. Toon tipster and Wolf of Wall Street actor Jonah Hill. But the winner by the proverbial country mile is another podcast. Well done, Paul, from Toon Review, for this one. Dave Harrison, who's in our chat, and John Motson. Dave, I think he's got the bullseye, as you would see in the archery. Support from the Toon Review. Give him a subscription. He is the winner of this week's Lookalikey. And keep them coming in. We'll always love them. It's always a good part of the week to see them. Couple of things to get through as well. As you know, QTech always gives away a special prize. We have 4 weeks of clues from John at QTech, and then you can win a prize if you get all 4 questions right and get the final question at the end. So your first clue, and the prize is 2 tickets for the Watford game at Newcastle. This is your first clue. It's a picture of St. James's Park and the word somersault. So scribble that down on a bit of paper or stick it on your phone. We will go through the clues each week, but a picture of St. James's Park and the word somersault. That's your first one. You'll have another 3 clues to come, and then it'll be the first person that John sees in the chat with the answer will be the winner of those 2 tickets for the Watford game. And as always, Food Bank t-shirt. The last one went for £40, so that was another £40. Toon Tickler one went to somebody. I've just contacted them on Twitter actually, but it went for £40, so thank you very much for that. This is the new one. So Bobby Robson, NUFC Matters t-shirt, a one-off made by John from QTech. I have pinned that at the top of my Twitter at Steve Rafe, and we've already got a £50 bid for that. So £50 in the pot so far. If you want to bid for that, I will keep that going until next Friday. And don't forget as well, we have also got the Food Bank calendar. Photographs by myself, Sarah Jane Easton, and Dave Beanie during our walks during lockdown. We took a lot of photographs of our lovely Riverside and City, and that calendar is available on nufcmatters.com, and that all proceeds from that are going to the Food Bank. But some cracking shots there of the Tyne Bridge, the Millennium Bridge, the river itself, St. James's Park. Yeah, well worth spending a little bit of money on that. Could make a nice present as well. That photograph there was the first game, Sheffield United, of course. I was in the Gallagher for the first one, but $11.99 postage and package as well, available now from nufcmatters.com. That is the Food Bank calendar, and I think that runs everything off now. Obviously, Julie Baker's on a Christmas do, so it doesn't really matter when I do this. Yep, Troll of the Week, and this week's special effort is from ToonFan120. Has a go at a few people, actually. The lot of them are an embarrassment. Burnsy's just mentally ill, but Lipsy Adam and that pathetic bald dick Wraith and his individual need to stop begging attention and crying the victim when called out for their behaviour. Wow, that was deep. You know, I just think it's rather rude, but you definitely made it as Troll of the Week. Don't forget tomorrow as well, Dog and Parrot, me and Super Mac will be there at 1 o'clock. I think I'll be joined by Joe as well. I think you coming tomorrow, Joe? Yeah,
right.
I'll be there so you can meet Joe, get a photograph with him. But yeah, Dog and Parrot, 1 o'clock. Me and Malcolm will be talking you through the pre-match of the game, and then we'll be back in there at 6 o'clock after the game to do a roundup and hopefully celebrating a win. And we're also, Mitch, if you're up and about, going to do this tomorrow because we missed last week. NUFC Matters View from the Middle East. Join me, Mitch, Stu Penman, and Al Walid as we look ahead to tomorrow's game. And I'll
be at work, but I've got the diary blocked, so not a problem.
Fantastic.
Not a problem.
He's got the diary. He's got the diary blocked. Okay, we'll finish off slightly earlier tonight. So let's talk predictions. Mitch, I know you'll probably give yours tomorrow, but we'll get it tonight. We can do it again tomorrow for those people who watch that show. Give us your predictions.
I forgot my dice. I should roll my dice, really.
Well, you can do it tomorrow. You can do the dice tomorrow.
I'll do the dice tomorrow. There you go.
Pick a score tonight.
Do you know what? I fancy we to do a pen tomorrow and have 3-1. I feel it's got to come. I think once it's Steve said it before. It's about getting the monkey off our back. It's getting that first 3 points. And tomorrow is set up well on the back of the performance with 10 men. That we carry those performances into every home game. There's some teams that'll have a torrid time at St James's Park. It's as simple as that. And that's what we've got to focus on. One step at a time, one game at a time. Not get ahead of ourselves. But I think once we start to get some sort of momentum, then I think you see things start to come together, heading into January to a point where we can actually make some significant changes. So yeah, I'll take 3-1 tomorrow. Okay,
and what about you, Toon Tipster?
Well, like I say, I've had a dream, so I think Newcastle win 4-0. I don't know what I'm basing that on. I've got absolutely no idea. I just like Mitch, Steve. I just think it's coming. It's due. We're going to batter somebody soon.
You've been sniffing the gas on Teesside again, or something?
Sniffing something. I don't know what's the matter with me today, Mitch. But no, I just do. It's got to come. We've got to win a game at some point. And why not against these? Yes, they're a big, strong side. They're well drilled. They're well organised. But again, they're not world beaters, are they? And yes, neither are we. But get Maxi on the ball. Get Wilson. Get the ball in the box to Wilson. Let J7 do his stuff. Newcastle win 4-0.
Great stuff. I'm going for a little bit more of a conservative result. I think it'll be tighter. Burnley or no mugs. I'm going to go with a 2-1 tomorrow, but I do think they'll win. I think we will get the get the season underway. The Great Escape will start, as people are calling it in the chat. As always, thank you to everybody in the chat. Over 470 watching at one point. It still blows us away, as we say. Thank you very much for your support and all your best wishes. Thanks, as always, to Andre, to Steve Hasty, to Joe, and to Mitch. Always a pleasure. Mitch, I'll see you in the morning, and I will see you tomorrow afternoon, Joe. And don't forget, we are back with the View from the Middle East at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Take care, lads. Be safe.
See you guys.
Cheers, everyone.
See you, folks. Bye-bye.